Hey everyone, welcome to the Slice of Construction podcast. I'm your host, Jared Taylor. We have a very, very special guest here today. Joining me is the co-founder and CEO of Genda. I might mess up this name, and he's going to say it right after with the correct pronunciation, but Erez Dror. Did I say that right?
You
Decent,
got
halfway decent. All right, you say it so everyone knows correct pronunciation.
Erez Dror, but it's a
Okay,
very hard name
way
to
better
pronounce.
when you say
You're
it.
good.
Uh, Excited to have you here. What a way to start. I'll start the conversation with the question I ask everyone. You're walking down the street and someone sees you in some Genda swag, right? A shirt. What do you tell them when they say, "What does that company do?" What do you tell them?
That's a great way to ask it. So I will tell him that Genda is a construction tech company. We work with commercial GCs, and we provide them visibility to the on-site operations, who is on site, where they're at, what are they working on, making sure they stay on budget, on schedule.
And why did you decide to start this company in the first place?
So I came from construction actually. I started as a carpenter 15 years ago. Um, Went up the ranks and spent a lot of time in the field as an assistant super, and it was super, super tough. After a couple of years, I did a bachelor's and master's in civil engineering. And when I did my master's, I learned about solutions for the pains I felt when I was a super. So I was like, oh, this can really impact the industry, and decided that's what I want to do with my life. So a few years ago, started a company with the two other co-founders, Ayal and Shai.
You just nailed the argument of why, if someone wants to get a master's, why you don't get it immediately after. You have to have a master's becomes valuable when you are able to use it to look back at a previous experience and then apply. Now, that's something that we don't see as much anymore. Like they say, like as soon as you graduate, like go into this new program and start learning, but you never
Mhm.
even had the work experience yet. So like when you're able to apply it to work experience, it can become a really good tool, right? Was that your
Absolutely.
experience with it?
Absolutely. And that's the advice I give on to anyone that asks me if they should do a master. You need to get
So
your hands dirty a bit, and then you can really have a better perspective on what you can do better in your next journey.
yeah, I like that when you kind of talk like imagery. If you go immediately, it's still going to be like you don't have your glasses on that you need.
Hmm.
And then if you do it after you have all this experience, you put the glasses on and everything is now so much more clear, right, of what's happening. So what were some of these like things that were revealed to you after you got this master's when you looked back at your previous career that you're like, oh, these were problems, but now I know how to solve these? What were some of those things in starting this company?
So it was my master's was about lean construction, which is basically a methodology for managing in general, but lean construction is specifically managing a construction project. And when I was a assistant super and a super, it was I had no idea what to do. I was thrown into the field. I had a super above me that told me, "Hey, go count how many workers we have, figure out what they're doing," and it had zero context. So I was basically a human data collector, always going back to my manager and trying to create a picture of what's happening. Obviously, things got behind schedule, more expensive, like any construction project. And when I did my master's and learned about the lean philosophy and the lean construction concept, I was like, wow, this makes a lot of sense. There are better ways to do what I did. So that was a very like a revealing moment. And when I got to the technology side of my master's, I learned that a lot of what I did manually, like counting heads, can be done very easily with technology. Or walking and counting and figuring out where the trades are working, which took me hours, like half a day every day. Now I came across technologies that can do that instantly and provide me constant feedback on that. So it was a really mind-blowing event for me that really, I decided to leave everything I did behind, not everything, but a lot of what I did behind, take a big leap forward and open a company. So that's how impactful that was for me.
So it's been a few years since you started. What's something you know now that you wish you knew when you first started this thing?
Whew, that's a good
You're like
question.
just one thing, right? That's the tough part, right? If you had to narrow it down to one core part.
I knew it from day one, but I learn it again every day that it's all about the people. Having a key, really, really good team can do everything you can imagine. It doesn't even matter, like it does, I guess, but you can do things above your imagination if you have a good team that works well together. And even though I knew it conceptually, it goes back to our discussion about doing a master, but that was my a big jump in my management uh, uh, level, let's call it. I managed before that, but mostly outsource consultants. So when I learned that, that was really impactful, and I still learn it every day. And it's fun because you can accomplish great things.
Yeah, and it's always something that you continue to get better at, right? It's not something that, wow, I'm the best at I'm the best at building these relationships. Like you can always get better at creating the best team environment and things like that. So that's
Mm-hmm.
really cool. When you're working with, I know you work with a lot of construction firms, and some are listed on your website. Most actually, you work with a lot of the top ones in the country. What what are some of the things that you also learn from your users? Like, how do you like to take in feedback, and then how do you apply that to making the proper adjustments?
Um, I guess everything. Like we started with a concept. Our vision didn't change significantly from day one, but everything in between changed weekly from customer feedback. We're very bullish on customer feedback. We try to develop only things that we either heard from the field or validated with the field, or we heard something in the field and then we say, okay, we have a way to help there. We're very iterative, so we're doing a lot of experiments. So we do a mock-up, we bring it back to the field, see if we have good feedback, release an MVP, see if we have good feedback, and then evolve around that. So learned a ton from the field. We were really lucky. So you mentioned we're working with some of the top GCs in the nation. So we're really lucky to have very good customers. Not only the top GCs. I can tell you that. I'll give you an example. John Andres is our first customer. They're a great GC from Dallas Fort Worth. And John and I speak for an hour every week for 4 years now. And I learned something from him every day. And I do that with as many people as I can. So at the end of the day, we're here to serve them. And if we don't, the better we know their pains and the better feedback we get, the better our product would be and the value we create.
One of the things I wanted to mention and give you kudos for is when you go to your site, you list pricing. That is not something a lot of companies do, and I think that ends up becoming actually a superpower for you because people appreciate that transparency and the ability to immediately know, okay, here's what it's going to cost me. I can start to budget for that, right? Can you talk to me like the thought process around putting publicly your pricing on the site to make it easy for people to kind of know what that cost could look like before working with you?
Yes, so I will answer it in two ways.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, one of the most important things for us is to make the process as easy for the customer as possible. Construction is super complex, and especially when selling software, there's so many pricing models that don't make sense. So our pricing is clear. We're trying to make it as clear as possible, and we all inclusive. So you don't pay $100, and then for that you need to pay an extra $100, and then for that, if you want 10 more seats, you need to pay 200 more, which makes it unpredictable. Construction, at the end of the day, construction projects and construction companies look at the bottom line. They want to know how much it's going to cost for the entire project or entire year. So we try to make it simple for them. If you can make doing business with you simple, then you win more business. What we've learned, and I think it evolved during the years that at least we're in business, and it's continuing to go that way. A lot of the sales process is done without us in the room, and before they even meet us. Like maybe the hardest part, at least for us, is to get in front of the right people and pitch Genda to them. Usually, when project team sees Genda, they love it and they want it straight away. And usually the main factor is, can we afford it? So if we can get them ready to arrive ready to the conversation, having at least some understanding of how much it's going to cost, it makes the conversation a lot easier. And usually that's something that will always be covered to some extent in the first meeting. Like they will always ask that. So why wait?
What's something you can laugh about now, but maybe you cried about when it first happened when you're building this thing?
Wow, that's a good one.
People usually say just one thing when I say
Yeah,
that, but
that was I was trying to pick the first one. In the early days, every project was scary. Like you start a job, we're working now on the tallest tower in Texas with one of the largest GCs. I'm not sure if I can share their name. So starting a project of that scale was a scary moment. Like it was one of the most impactful points in time for our business because it allowed us to win a lot more big projects. But moving from a multifamily complex or even a 20-story job to a 70-something story project downtown, huge GC is scary. Today, I can say we're laughing. I can laugh about it, or I'm happy about it because the project is super successful. Just this week, they passed 700 workers on site daily, which is an amazing number. Um, so if I have to pick one, I would pick that one, even though I can probably share 10 more.
It's one of my favorite new questions to ask because usually
Yeah, it's
people are
amazing.
like, it brings up a mix of emotions, past pain, excitement that they don't have that pain anymore, and a couple different things. But when you look at, where the company's at today, what excites you most about the future? What's really next for Genda?
That's a great question. Yeah, great question, man. Um, I think the thing that is the most exciting in the last 6 months is the feeling of product market fit. We've been working for a few years on building the product with design partners. We had a handful of customers. I moved to the US and started going to market officially. And once that started, and construction is a relatively slow business. It takes time to win trust with your customers, but once you get it, it's amazing because you have one job and then a second job, and you start having that snowball effect in a good way, like an account that adds more and more projects. So that's very, very exciting. Seeing usage goes up, getting great testimonials. So that's something that really took off in the last 6 months. So that's very, very exciting because it allows us to grow way faster. Even though the macro conditions at the moment in the industry are tough, interest rates, slow starts, but we're still getting that, which is amazing. You asked what's next for Genda, so it depends how long you go, but we're here for the long run and we're building something big. I don't want to get into a whole vision conversation, but we believe that in 10 years from now, construction will be managed in a different way. We don't have enough construction managers, and it's going to rely heavily on data that is sourced from the field automatically, like Genda generates and other amazing companies. We can name a few. And a lot of AI that put the pieces together to help the humans that manage the job manage it more effectively. So Genda aims to be the head of that. So we started with one data source, AI on top of that, but we're adding more data sources as all the time. So 10 years from now, we're going to have all data sources from progress tracking with 360 capturing to crane monitoring to materials to equipment. There are many ways to get there, from partnerships, acquisitions, mergers, but that's where I believe the industry is going to go. And my personal inspiration is to lead that for the industry. And I think we're positioned in a pretty good spot for that. We have a very crucial part of that thing.
Without going into too much detail on this, because I don't want you to have to say anything you don't want to. But what blockers do you think will kind of pop up along the way? Are there any in terms of regulations? Are there any key pieces of information that you're really going to want to stay on top of, or any trends happening that could affect things? Like, it's not a podcast these days if you don't mention something like AI. But like, what is kind of top of mind? It doesn't have to be blockers, but what's top of mind for you as you kind of execute on your vision? Like, I don't want to say what keeps you up at night or things, something like that. I'm trying to find a better word for it, but like, what are you always thinking about in terms of kind of reaching for that North Star that you've set?
I can tell you that sales is always something that keeps every founder awake at night. Even when sales is good, you're awake because you always want it to be better. But if I put that aside, I don't think that I truly believe that 10 years from now, that's how the industry is going to be. As I mentioned, there are many ways to get there. And I don't foresee any blockers that won't solve themselves. Like the biggest blocker is the slow pace of adoption and, general, society resistance to AI to some extent. People are a bit afraid of it. But I believe personally that will solve itself as AI would evolve. Construction is definitely not going to be the industry that the AI is leading the way. But once people use AI I believe that in a couple of years we will have robots in our houses that are based on AI. So once that happens, it will be way easier for the construction industry together because we still need to generate a lot of data sources that we don't generate good enough today. like what Genda is doing is one, labor, but there's still a lot of work to do on many other data sources. So I don't think it's blockers. It's just things that take time to build and takes time for the industry to adopt. Um, I think specifically AI is a great, gives great advantages to companies like ours, because what's unique about us is the data that we generate. Nobody else can generate the data that we generate. AI makes the analysis to some extent commoditized. Obviously, there are edge cases, but in the original business model for Genda, I plan to hire 5 data scientists that cost a ton of money to analyze the data that Genda has. Today, we just use ChatGPT, and we get amazing insights. So again, you can always work more on that and get better insights, but you can get a lot for very cheap, which I think is a great advantage for companies like ours that generate the data. Um,
Yeah, I think we often talk about when it comes to AI, you know, every part of a business, like AI is a game changer. But at the end of the day, AI is only as good as the data that you end up having.
mhm.
So the companies that have the best data are the ones that, when they do implement AI, that are going to see major growth and have the advantage in the industry. And that's not to say there's other use cases, right? That even if you don't, it'll work. But like for the most part, it is really good at analysis more than anything else, right?
Mhm.
Um, I just being able to take even something as a CSV file and be able to break down the information and communicate with the information as if you're in a meeting with someone and sending emails back and forth, right? It's been pretty cool just to see how much it's progressed in the last year. What's going to happen in the next 5, 10 years? It's going to be pretty crazy. So
Mhm.
I agree with you that kind of the other parts of AI, everyone will probably have a similar use of it, but without the right information, like the information that you have, it's not going to be as powerful for those other companies.
Amen.
Love it. Well, I'm excited for future conversations with you. Looking forward to staying in touch and wishing you the best of luck. And thank you so much for joining us here today.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for giving stage to construction tech startup. It's important, and we're changing the industry together.
Love it. Thanks so much.